for anything. Next slide. This webinar is brought to you by HP Software. My name is Bernard Shimshak. I am an Ohio chapter leader and a testing quality and application lifecycle management special interest group leader for Vivid. I'm also a Vivid director and chair of the education. I've been in the software management for over 15 years. For disaster recovery, I have been involved with my employer for the last 5. Next. Our presenters today are Jeanette Jacobs and Pedro Mendez. Jeanette has held various senior positions at major blue chip IT firms, including IBM, Microsoft, and Oracle. She's leading the product management and the go-to-market initiatives for the Adaptive Readiness Tool, known as ACT, and Learning as a Service business worldwide. Pedro is a member of the executive committee of DataSmart. He has a background in system engineering and product management, which includes Microsoft Certified System Engineer since 2001, MCTS messaging, and project management professional since 2005. Next slide.
Yep.
Okay, some housekeeping for this webinar. Today's live session is intended for all Vivid members. The recording will be posted in the webinar section on the Vivid website and visible to all the members. Additionally, today's slide deck and webinar recording will be made available to you. We'll send you a link via email once they are posted on the Vivid website. If you have any questions as we go along, please type and send them in using the questions pane in the webinar control panel. Next slide. Here's a picture of the GoToWebinar control panel. That usually appears in the upper right-hand corner on your screen. To submit a question, make sure the questions pane is expanded and type in your question and click on Send. So, let's get started. I will pass it over to Jeanette Jacobs.
Thank you, Bernard. Next slide, please, Pedro. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for your time this afternoon. So today's session is just really going to have a look at disaster recovery and how this is impacting the markets and your day-to-day jobs that you're fulfilling. Just from an interview and introduction perspective, we know that due to corporate governance and King II, there's a lot more legislation and senior leadership accountability within the organizations in terms of risk management, disaster recovery, and business continuity management. We know that there's so many more dynamic IT systems and changes on a day-to-day basis in your environment, and most customers today are saying that they have a huge investment in cost towards risk management and how to test and make these plans very effective and ensure that they're not just going through the motions. So a lot of customers that we speak to are saying to us, how do we improve that? How do we reduce our cost in risk management from an IT perspective? And they're saying, well, are we just going through the motions, and where do we start? So what we're going to do today is just to look at how you can go back to your internal audit and address those requirements they're placing on you as an IT team, and also how do you optimize documenting your tested recovery plans and your disaster recovery plans in the IT environment. So what we're going to talk through is very high level, but giving you some of the solutions that HP is bringing to our customers to be able to address this specific challenge that you may be facing in your business today. Next slide, please. So when we look at types of risks that our organizations are facing, I think you're probably, as customers, more exposed to these on a day-to-day basis than anybody else, and you probably can talk through these because of your own experiences that you've had in your business. But we really look at a risk in terms of technological risk and physical risk, human risk, and environmental risk. And these risk areas are all areas that the IT team are responsible in addressing and making sure that you have tested recovery plans in place that can cover or protect your organization should a worst case scenario or any of these type of scenarios happen to your organization. So from a technological risk perspective, we're looking at IT failures, where these are probably more prone and more predominant in your businesses than some of the other environmental risks that we face. But if we look at server crashes, monitoring your databases, your applications, your infrastructure, and your networks, all of those from an internal audit and internal risk perspective need to have documented disaster recovery processes in place. And that is what we're talking about today, is how can we help you cover that technological risk that you may be facing. In terms of that also, should your organization face a physical, human, or environmental risk, you need to be able to take those recovery plans, take it to an alternate recovery site where you perhaps have a business continuity plan in place, and you need to be able to help your IT team run through the documented disaster recovery process for each system and recover your critical business applications. So next slide, please.
Okay, thank you, Jeanette. So let's talk a little bit when one of the things that Jeanette talked about, all of the risks that we face in the IT. So I took a little bit about 9/11 as an example, what can happen in all those kind of risks that we have. This is a human risk, we can say. But before the 9/11, we saw that IT manager was always struggling for have a budget, a nice budget for the IT and for securing all their IT servers and storage and all of that. But we know that it's difficult because the people that are putting the money for the budgets for the IT, they are not so addressed to that budget because they are not facing the dangers of business and IT. So IT managers said that they have to fight for money for implement disaster recovery plans and technology. What we see is that after 9/11, a huge number of companies has changed a little bit their mindset. So they're starting to see that maybe the IT must be more aligned with business, because the IT is not just a technological area of the company, it's the area that is supporting the business. And this is a big change when we talk about IT. So we have some examples that what happens with the 9/11. A company, Cantor Fitzgerald, for example, has lost in the 9/11 almost 700 employees and its primary data center on 9/11. We all can imagine that this could just represent the end of a company. Okay, so this was the worst case scenario that could happen. So this is a perfect example of a human risk. Okay, and we can say, okay, today we don't have Bin Laden, but we have the Islamic State, so there are always risks. We have here another example as Merrill Lynch, whose headquarters was located right next to Ground Zero and lost its primary data center for 6 weeks. So as we understand how business is aligned and is running very fast, 6 weeks without business may crash a company, okay, or make several damage that it's very difficult to go back again online. So after that, this company, for example, has performed a gap analysis to determine what was missing and what may be needed to respond to another disaster. So IT manager and administration on the companies are changing their way to think and to look about IT and all the technology. So they are starting to look that IT must be more aligned with business, okay? Because IT is supporting the business. The big question is how. Let's face some numbers, because numbers don't lie. And for example, that company that we told us the earlier slide has lost just 135 million in loss of property and interruption of business. So this is just numbers and the reality what happens with one of company. But we have more examples in this event. So today companies are asking for business impact analysis. Why? Because they are concerned about maintaining their business. So they are concerning and are more, they want to address these questions and look a little bit more on risk management. So I just put here something that I know you all must be look about this. What is the cost of doing nothing? So if you don't do nothing, it's okay. We don't waste the money from the company and everyone is satisfied. So doing nothing seems very inexpensive at the first glance. So you don't have to buy software, you don't have to buy people and resources, no overtaxed personnel to relocate, so everyone stays very happy. Who can, for example, doesn't agree with the strategy of cost of zero? So zero is a number that doesn't change with the exchange rates, so it's a very manageable number. But doing nothing only works until the moment that something happens, and this has been proved in the past. It's just like you carry an umbrella. It's you don't have an umbrella, so it's okay. It's not a problem. But right up until the day it rains. So in the IT field, something is definitely going to happen. This is a statement. The only question is when. And what we HP and all these solutions want to deliver to you is to help and how to do this, how to protect business with IT. And then, of course, once something happens, doing nothing starts to look a little bit more costly. And I think we all agree with that. Jeanette?
Hi, Jeanette. You're muted. This is Stephanie. There you go.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you very much. There we go. So what I was just asking myself, let's ask the audience now, is how can HP help you improve and streamline your disaster recovery processes? So what do we bring as, we can say, the knight in shining armor to help you as an IT team overcome the challenges of having a single base of knowledge? So what we see often in disaster recovery terms and people in your IT teams that look after specific critical systems in your business is that those people have the recovery processes down pat, but quite a lot of the time that's in their head, and for them to be able to carry that knowledge or transfer that knowledge to other people is sometimes time consuming. You may not always convey or transfer all that knowledge to the next person. Therefore, you might find some missing steps in that recovery process that you can only find out when something happens, or you're only going to really establish the gaps once you try and recover that system. So what we're also saying is, how can we record or help you to record your recovery processes without missing steps? How do we help you to transfer that knowledge that's in your critical systems to other key members of the team, so that you also not have a single point of knowledge when a worst case scenario strikes your organization? So moving from a static environment where you have a static disaster recovery process, what we see often is that because of the rate of change in business and the new style of IT, there's a lot of IT changes and IT system changes on a day-to-day basis. And what we're saying is, how do we keep that, instead of being static, how do we help you to have those systems and the recovery processes that are dynamic and that can easily be changed and move with your changes in your IT environment? And that's what we're going to talk about here. High external consultancy costs. So what we've seen is a lot of customers, because of the advent of 9/11 and then subsequently a lot of disasters that have happened in businesses, whether that be from a security or a risk or a human or a infrastructure perspective, a lot of companies have spent quite considerable amounts of money in putting together disaster recovery processes. What we're saying here is we actually have a solution from our team in HP that can help you to streamline those costs, make sure that your external consultancy costs are not prohibitive, but also help your team that knows the best how to recover your systems to just purely take that knowledge and transfer that back into a documented, recorded recovery process. So the cost of not having a plan is also really bad, as Pedro spoke about, but when that plan is documented for a recovery process, but it's the wrong recovery process, that's even worse. Because now you're going to be in a worst case scenario, you're trying to recover the system, and you're working from the wrong hymn sheet, if you can say. So what we're saying is, what is the knight in shining armor here? What is the solution that we can bring to the table? Well, at HP Software Education, we have a solution called the Adoption Readiness Tool. And basically, the Adoption Readiness Tool, or ART, is there to drive for our customers, do many things for them. But in essence, it really drives value realization of software and of your business IT environments. It improves the adoption of different processes and procedures in terms of helping to record them and making sure that they are dynamic and move with the changes in your environment, and also to help you in the IT environment reduce risk. And we do that through the provision of using the tool or the Adoption Readiness Tool to record documentation, record processes in your business, provide training to your people. So if you've recorded a disaster recovery process and you want to package that up, put it into a simulation-based environment, and then send that out to your other team members so that everybody can learn how to recover that system, that is best, and that's best practice, and that's first prize. And also to be able to provide performance support to the end-user community. So the Adoption Readiness Tool really is a solution that is an e-learning based solution, but it's also a documentation tool in terms of being able to record simulations. It sits on the desktop, it records your Windows-based environment, and it basically can record your system recovery processes. It's a single source creation, but it provides multiple output. In terms of that, why is it important? Well, single source creation gives you a single source of the truth when you're recording that recovery process, but it can publish that out into multiple output formats. So you can publish that out into Word, you can publish it out into PDF, you can publish it out into a training module to train your other team members how to recover that system. You can also publish that out into PowerPoint or whatever formats you may need. The key thing here is once you've created it in a single source, if there's changes, and we know there will be in the IT environment, it's very easy and very quick to update those recovery processes and then republish that out, simply by the matter of clicking a few buttons. In addition to that, the Adoption Readiness Tool brings for the disaster recovery environment output in various formats. So when you are asked by internal audit to provide the recovery process to include into your overall business continuity management plan, we can provide that because it will be either in PDF format, non-changeable, non-touchable by other people in the BCM team, so you know that those are secure and safe and can be published into your business continuity plan. And also the key thing that it brings is the ease of dynamic updating as the systems change. So we know that your IT systems will change. We know that there's many critical systems that may be upgraded or changed, or new environments that were brought into your organization, and to document those take a lot of time. What we're saying is the Adoption Readiness Tool can help you to streamline that process, reduce your risk, but also document those processes and give them visibility to the rest of the team. Next slide, please. So if we had to summarize, saving costs through effective disaster recovery plans is we can help with the Adoption Readiness Tool to reduce your consultancy cost from an external perspective. We help you to increase your self-sufficiency within your IT team in terms of you and your IT team being able to accurately record and document your disaster recovery processes per system and per environment. We help you also to reduce that single point of knowledge within your business, so that single person that is the only person that knows how to recover X, Y, and Z critical system. You can be able to actually record what they do, document that down, and give that in a training environment out to the other people in your team. So you have multiple people that can recover that system and reduce risk for your people in the organization. So overall, with the Adoption Readiness Tool, in terms of disaster recovery processes and procedures, we are able to mitigate risk to your business in a very, very big and constructive way. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Jeanette. Just a perfect presentation. What we will gonna see, and I have to make some, just to explain what we were gonna see. We just go to one of our customers in Portugal, and we go to a local government where entity responsible to the incoming taxes. So it's a huge organization on the government. And we want to show to all of you, and it's not magic, we just record some different steps and different applications. We choose to record some steps on the HP data protector. So we just record some restore on a database, and we record some steps on the Citrix infrastructure. So just to make clear that this our tool is it's not just working on HP software, it works on any software, any kind of information that we must record. So we can record documents, we can record some steps on the Citrix, on VMware, on Hyper-V, on Data Protector. So it's not connected to brand. Okay, let me just put it here. So let's start with the record about the data protector and the restore of a database. So as you can see here, I record one time all these steps of a restore of a database on the HP data protector, and I have multiple outputs. Right now, I'm just gonna put the show me. So what we are seeing here, it's all the steps. As you can see, we are clicking to open Data Protector, and all these balloons helping me, saying me where to go. Just go on the file system, all these balloons, just opening, click the server, choosing where to make where is the database, just right click. So all this stuff has no human intervention. It's automatically store record without any editation from me or anyone. Okay, so we are just recording one step of. You can imagine one of the steps of a disaster recovery is to make a restore. Okay, just selecting all the attributes and finalizing. Now we just drag the window and then restore protection attributes, and then as you see it marks the button and just click finish to start the restore. Okay, so this is one of the outputs that we can present to help to anyone understand how to do this. So this is a very interactive way to put these steps on anyone. So it's not static. Okay, let's finish this lesson. Just for you to see the same thing in another format, I can go back and go to this tab, and for example, I will open in PDF format. Okay, so as you can see, you have all the steps here. I'm going to go to the beginning. All the steps in the PDF format, in the classic format, all document with the print screen, with all the help here. The same capture in another output. Okay, just 100% automatically, without any edit. Okay. Not going through all the process, it's all here. So we just do this in 5 minutes. Let me show, for example, for the infrastructure on Citrix. So again, we are opening Citrix Shen Center. We are selecting one physical server. Expand, all the help here in the balloon, just click Shen Server 1, expand, and then we are going to make a failover from this machine, this virtual machine, to another physical server. And all the fields helping the process. One of the advantages of this process is that when you are recording all the steps, you are at the same time doing the process. So it's very difficult to fail. If the process fails, you are seeing that. So if you are writing down or in the static document in the Word or PPT, it's very, things can change and the process could not be success. So in this, doing like this, it's there's no way to fail. And I can show again in Shen with the, for example, PowerPoint, for example, or PDF again. Okay. Again, we have all the steps here automatically. So it's okay for you to, you can edit all this information, and if you want to address and put more information in the balloons, it's okay. But what we want to just to focus, it's very fast. So you can start to document the whole process, and time to action here, it's very clear. So I'm going to close this and return to presentation. One of the things is that art will also publish for a lot of language. So it's 100% automatically, and we have all. Jeanette, can you help me? How many languages?
So the Adoption Readiness Tool supports 33 different worldwide languages, which therefore, if you're recording that process in one language and you document out your recovery process for that system and you need to send it to your head office that's perhaps in Germany, you can, with a single click of a button, translate that entire document in a minute into German for the customer.
That's a huge advantage for multinational companies that want to spread over the whole geographical position, all the information in different language in different countries. So we are talking about time to do the things. Okay. So we put here some example. I put an example of a single workflow of database failure. This is how technicians are actually working to the workflow to restore a single database failure. You can say, as a point of view of a technician, it's okay to do this if he is used to do it. But imagine that a new person is at the company and you have to execute all this process. It's really difficult. So what we are offering is a tool that records once and deploys different outputs. And for example, as you've seen in PDF or an exercise data sheet or a quick reference or in simulation with test me, show me, quiz me, or try me. We didn't show the quiz me, but it's possible to run the process, and the user have to do all the steps, and the presentation is saying, okay, you need help, it's not there, just you want help, and then if you say yes, it will show you where to click and where to follow the rest of the presentation. Well, where can we use the Adoption Readiness tool? We can record, for example, a restore of a database as a class. We have seen it. We can restore a virtual machine in VMware or Hyper-V, so it's part of, for example, a disaster recovery plan. We can record all the steps to activate your secondary site if it's that situation. And what we want to address here is, what is the added value that we are putting here for the companies? We are at the moment minimizing human error. So we are putting all the information in a format that it's not so important who is leading the steps. So you have all the information in the format that easy to anyone to follow and just execute that comments. We are training with real procedures, not documents. I talked this a little bit after. We are just executing the process when we are recording. So there are the process must have success, not documenting in a static way. So we are maximizing our time to be alive, because we have best we have documentation in an output that help us to have online to be online more faster, and we are reducing the time to produce and change procedures, because all these steps are they are changing every day. We are every day buying new storage or migrating from SQL to Oracle, and all these changes must be changed to the disaster recovery process. So with this tool, you have all the conditions to make it faster. And we know when we don't have the right tools, we tend to not do these changes on disaster recovery plans, and when you need it, they are not so actual. Okay.
Next slide, please, Pedro. Hi, Stephanie. Can you perhaps go to the next slide for us?
You got it. Looks like we may have lost Pedro.
Seems like it, yes. I think we're going into the question and answer session anyway right now. Is that right?
Okay, I'm bringing up the slide deck.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's
bear
awesome.
with me.
No
you
problem.
tell me when we're going to...
No problem. So what we're going to do right now, just for the audience's purposes, is we're going straight into the Q&A session. We've got quite a bit of time left, so I'm sure there are some questions. I'm just going to open the question pane. I think, Mary, you're helping me through these?
Bernard?
Bernard.
Yes. Yes, I am.
Right, so let's shoot through. I think if you have any questions, please enter your questions in the question section. Bernard, over to you.
Yes, we got some decent questions in now, and I'm glad we're able to perform some disaster recovery and moving with the slide. So if you all have some questions, please by all means type it into the question pane. We do have some decent time, and we should be able to get to a majority of your questions. Here we got some questions coming in now. From a best practice perspective, what would be the first steps to implement a proper DR process? Jeanette?
That is a really great question, so thank you for asking that. Well, Bernard, what we would suggest is, in terms of best practice, really, if you're looking at disaster recovery process, that really goes one level higher in terms of an organization looking at overall risk management and then looking at a business continuity management plan. In terms of a business continuity management plan, the next level down from that is when an organization typically would first do what we call a risk analysis, which identifies the risks that may face the organization and what risks that may face the IT organization in terms of the critical systems. And then the next step would be for an organization to perform what we call a business impact analysis. That business impact analysis will review the critical systems that you've identified. It will review the risks in facing the organization, and then it will review what the impact to the business is, whether that be in monetary terms, in terms of brand, in terms of damaging the reputation, etc. Once you understand all of those, the IT team's responsibility really kicks into full force, and that is really looking at where you will be relocating to from an IT perspective, where you will be recovering your alternate systems, and then what we spoke about today is having a fully documented, up-to-date, repeatable and recoverable disaster recovery process for each and every single one of your critical business process and business systems. So that is really, in a nutshell, the process and the best practice of where you would start and what the IT team would be focusing upon. Thanks, Bernard.
Okay, thanks. That was a pretty good answer for that. Here we have another question. What is the best way to approach documenting recovering process using art?
Good question. Excellent question. Thank you, Bernard. So if I think about the best way to approach recording your disaster recovery processes using the adoption readiness tool or the ART tool, what we typically see is the adoption readiness tool is a solution that can be put onto your desktop. It can be put onto the server or the virtual environment that you want to, as Pedro showed, record that recovery process. And what it does is it's really, in terms of simplicity, easy to use. It has a recording button, and you click the recording button, and basically as you click the recording button, you then proceed to doing those functions step by step of recording or recovering that process for that system. And the adoption readiness tool will document that out into a simulation format, and then with the press of a couple of buttons in the adoption readiness tool, you can publish that out into a documented PDF or whatever, all the different formats that Pedro has showed you. So that would normally be the best approach, is to put the subject matter expert or your IT system expert into the environment and get him to just simply record the simulation of exactly the steps on his desktop or on the server that he would take to recover that system. And that would be documented out for you into the adoption readiness tool that can publish it out into the different formats. Thank you, Bernard.
All right, thanks. Here's another question, kind of like right off of that. And before I start with that, please, the audience, if you do have any questions, just type them in the question pane and submit them. And what are the key benefits of using ART for documenting the recovery process?
I think the key benefits, good question. For me, in terms of the adoption readiness tool, what it brings is definitely in terms of the single point of knowledge. So what we've seen most customers struggle with is that there are subject matter experts that have a single point of knowledge of that recovery process in their heads. They can recover that system, but what happens if not wanting to happen, but what happens if something happens to that person? So the benefit for ART is that you can record everything that they do on that system in terms of recovering it. It is 100% accurate. It is 100% documentable. And you can publish that out and enable or publish out a simulation that you can use to train other people to do exactly the same recovery process in exactly the same way as that SME would be doing. So that is very, very key benefits for ART in terms of disaster recovery processes. The other key thing that it brings is that it reduces your external consultancy costs. We know that companies can spend a lot of money in terms of getting an external consultant in to simply come into their organization to recover or record those recovery processes. Nobody knows your environment as well as your people do. What we are saying is, let's help you and give you the tool and the solution to be able to do it yourself, become self-sustainable. So those are the key benefits that I would see in terms of bringing the adoption readiness tool into recording your recovery processes. Thank you, Bernard.
Okay. Yeah, great. And here's another one. How can we get a deeper dive demo of the ART capabilities for use in our business? Now, so Jeanette, do you have an answer for that?
Absolutely. So what we will do at the tail end of this presentation is we're going to give you some of the Twitter sites and some of the social media pages where you can engage with our team. In addition to that, we will give you my email address and also some of our other HP contact email addresses, and also through Pedro, obviously. So Pedro from DataSmart, you can contact him and we will work with him to be able to get back to your organization and help you to see much deeper dive, much deeper engagement in how the adoption readiness tool can help your business in many different ways. Thank you.
Okay, great. That's all the time we got for questions. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide.
Bernard, we just had one more question come in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh, yeah, there it is. What kind of after-purchase technical support that you will provide on ART?
So absolutely, what we do with our customers is we provide an annual software support agreement that goes with the purchase of the adoption readiness tool. And we have 3 levels of different tiers of technical support that is available to all our customers. And they will be able to also, should you need and deem it necessary, be able to support you in terms of any consultancy around the adoption readiness tool. So obviously that will be at an additional cost, but your annual support engagement will cover all of your technical support needs around the adoption readiness tool. Thank you.
Okay. And can I import existing process documentation from the various asset sources into ART, like docs for my servers, other software, and etc.?
So there's not a direct import, but we can certainly import some documentation. But please bear in mind that it is not a full-blown process documentation tool. It is really more of a recording and simulation-based tool that can publish out into those formats that we need. But generally speaking, what the benefit here in terms of disaster recovery processes is that it is a live recording of the live system and how you are actually recording exact steps of recovering that system. So what we're trying to take out of the way or take out of the obstacles that we generally see is that human error in translating how you recover the system onto paper. And generally we see that the problems and errors in recovering systems is between the actual SME doing it and between them document that accurately out. So what we're seeing as a key benefit here is that it's an online recording that happens that then publishes out the documentation. So really what we're saying is let's record through simulation, recording, and then publish out in terms of best practice. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, next slide. Whoopsie. Okay, great. You can find out more about the HP Adoption Readiness Tool, known as ART, right there at that link. And let me just bring this up. And you can see what our customers are saying. So you can watch another video at the I Love Art, and you'll be able to click that link there when you get the email concerning the link for the presentation and the recording. You can read how East European Logistics leader Crafthand uses HP Art to establish a robust process and deliver consistent results. And the contact information for Jeanette Jacobs is listed right there. All right, next slide, please. Okay, oops. There we go. All right, HP Software Education and Social. So we do have the latest news and updates around the industry. You can get it on Twitter. You can get it on HP's blogs and on LinkedIn. So that's how you get the best to find out what's new and what updates are happening there. All right, next. All right, the HP Big Data Conference 2015 is taking place August 10th through the 13th at the Westin Waterfront Hotel in historic downtown Boston. I've been there. It's a great place. There is no other place where you can find so many big data experts. We will feature real-world customers discussing use cases. There will be developers and engineering there to have real exchanges, and a good amount of experts who can answer any type of tough questions that you may have. Everyone that attends is passionate about using data to drive superior business outcomes. So you can register with the link that's provided there, and you'll be emailed that with the slide deck. And you can register for it, and hope to see you there. Next slide. Right. Thank you all for attending. Please be sure to complete the short survey after the webinar ends and opt in to receive more information from HP Software. Just a reminder that the webinar recording and the slide deck will be posted to the Vivint website. In the next few days, you'll receive an email with those links. Have a great day, and again, thank you for attending Disaster Recovery. Be ready for anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.